Yeah, I think we're going to start. So thank you everyone who connected today to this side event of the Statistical Commission, where we want to inform you about the work that is going on within the Data Science Leaders Network. This Data Science Leaders Network is a group that operates under the UN Committee on Big Data and UN Committee of Experts on Big Data and Data Science for Official Statistics. That Committee of Experts was established about 10 years ago under the Statistical Commission. Has done a lot of work, which we'll also show you. But more recently, it also has ventured specifically in the area of data science. You can see on the agenda of the Statistical Commission this year, so the commission which will take place from 27th of February to the 1st of March, that there is the item of the item 3D on data science, where we discuss the report of the Committee of Experts and also the work of this Data Science Leaders Network. And with that, I also just wanted to add there that if you look at the documents under the Statistical Commission, you'll find not only the report of the Committee of Experts, but you also find a background document, one of the two background documents, which is about the topic of today, which is the playbook, the Data Science Playbook, the annotated outline of that. We have posted it now on the website. So that's for your information. And now I want to hand it over to Osama Rahman from the Office for National Statistics of the UK. Osama is the director of the Data Science Campus, and he is also the chair of the Data Science Leaders Network. Osama, I'll hand it to you to start with some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Ronald, and hello everyone who has joined us. So if we think about sort of the core principles of National Statistical Offices, they were broadly set at a time where National Statistical Offices were essentially collecting their own data. And their independence was sort of sacred, given some of the things that had happened during World War II, in terms of using, census data and other things to identify people from certain populations. But it was very much data that NSOs collected themselves. But of course, things always move on, and I guess a while back, more and more NSOs also started using administrative data and linked administrative data in producing ever higher quality statistical outputs. But those were still, in the main, government-produced data sources, from the admin systems from various government departments. But again, the data landscape never stays still and is developed further. And there's lots more, whatever you want to call it, big data, alt data, digital footprints data, things like that, which are available. And of course, as being in a national statistical office, it is important that we think about, is it possible to use these data that we don't produce to produce ever better statistics for the public good that inform the public, can inform policy debates, and basically use them in the excellent work we all do. And some of this data isn't easily amenable to working with using traditional statistical techniques, and even when I say traditional statistical techniques, right, statistical methodology keeps on moving on. None of this stuff is static. So, for example, here at the ONS, and we are not the only ones who are doing this sort of work. In the Data Science Campus, we get credit and debit card spend data aggregated up to an extent, through which we're able to produce much quicker statistics, experimental statistics on things like, the extent to which households are going to financial distress, to do things like potentially look at the state of spatial competition at a very local level, to look at trade flows, to look at all sorts of things. So all this constantly evolving data landscape that we exist in actually allows for asks us to think about how we can provide more and more information, better and better statistical information. So that's kind of the landscape we fit in. And because of that, this new data coming in, also new platforms, with cloud platforms, with everyone keeps on saying new approaches using R and Stat, but R and Python, I think R is basically the same age as Stat, and everyone says that Stat is old and R is new. I'm thinking, well, they're the same age, and R came from S, but whatever. I think it's more about open source and using open source tools and cloud platforms that I think have led a lot of national statistical institutes to invest in data science and data engineering and data architecture capability. And of course, the Office for National Statistics is no exception. And I think many of you will know that the data science campus was set up, I guess, about 6-7 years ago. I can't remember exactly. It was before I joined. Basically, as a startup. And I think, because of the changes that have happened and the work they've done, it's no longer considered a startup. It's an established part of the Office for National Statistics now. And so, initially sort of, and also back then there wasn't data science capability in other government departments in the UK, well, not many of them. And so initially the data science campus was there to kind of experiment a bit, try things out, build capability elsewhere. I think now we're no longer a startup. We've restructured ourselves and are building ourselves around 3 core themes. And the first is to improve the quality, timeliness, and granularity of information available to prove insights for users. So this is all about, this new data we all have access to is much higher velocity and much higher granularity than the data that we have collected ourselves in the past. So, how can we improve insights for users using this, very high velocity, very granular data? So that's one of our core aims. Our other core aim is to support the ONS in the Office for National Statistics in becoming more efficient. An example of that, right, is actually can you use modern methods and LLMs to actually enable you to do classifications like SIC and SOC classifications more efficiently. And then a third core aim that kind of remains from the start is to build data and data science capability across the public. And I note there that I say to build data and data science capability across the public sector, because a lot of our capability programs that we run from the campus across government aren't about data science. They're just about, some of them are about basic understanding of data and basic data concepts. So that's really important as we become an increasingly data-driven world, that all government officials have some improved understanding of data, because data is going to drive more and more, is going to be a key driving force in government decisions. So that's kind of, I think, the landscape we're in. That's kind of, the history of the campus and how we are sort of coming around 3 core aims. And also that's why I've been delighted that the UN has set up a data science leaders network to actually so that we can all work together in implementing the sort of changes that the evolution that are required in NSOs given the changing data landscape. Right, so I think I will stop there, otherwise I can talk forever, as Ronald knows, and we have Frankie and Marco and Erica here, and they're all great to listen to, so I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Osama. Yes, it's very, very good to hear what the data science campus of ONS UK is already doing, what your journey is, and how we can share this internationally also. And I think that's why we have the Data Science Leaders Network. I wanted to share a presentation now. Before I do that, I also wanted to say that we will have a Q&A towards the end of this hour. So keep your questions that you might have for all of our speakers, or for any of our speakers, maybe it's better to say. Keep your questions. You can also post them in the chat, and then we'll get back to that towards the end. So we'll share my screen now to give a little bit further background on the Data Science Leaders Network and the latest activities that we have undertaken. I hope you can see my screen. So as I said, Data Science Leaders Network is part of the UN Committee of Experts on Big Data and Data Science. Okay, can I on my screen? This, I won't go into much detail, but it's just to indicate that the Committee of Experts has many groups working under that umbrella. In the light blue on this screen are all kinds of task teams working to explore, for instance, how we can use Earth observations. This is particular for the area of agricultural statistics. Use of scanner data, web scraping for price statistics, and so forth. And we have in the kind of purple color, we have the various hubs, so various statistical offices who in their region have taken it on them to help in the cooperation and development of training and projects, like for instance the regional hub in Brazil, in Rio for the Latin America region, the recent regional hub in Indonesia for Asia and the Pacific, and so forth. So that just gives you an overview about other things that are happening under the Committee of Experts. But also here we have the Data Science Leaders Network, specifically looking at this topic, how data science can be integrated into the work of statistical offices. And Osama gave already his view of what are the main points related to the work of the Data Science Campus at ONS. We've identified, roughly 3 pillars. So the kind of automation and efficiency, supplementary indicators, which was very visible during the COVID crisis, to the COVID pandemic, when many new indicators needed to be produced, and data science was a very useful tool there. And then the change of statistical production. At this point here, I will hand it over to Eric to give us a little bit of an overview about what we have done so far. This Data Science Leaders Network was created in 2022, and we reported on this in 2023. And I ask you, Eric, to take it from there, to see what things that we have done from there onwards. A bit of a flavor about how this group has worked then. You're muted, Eric. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ronald, and of course thank you, Osama, for the introduction. Actually, we started the first discussion when we celebrated the 5 years of the Data Science Campus in ONS in July 2022, and quite a few of you were there. So it's great that we actually see all the progress on this. So one of the key things we looked at is really to create like a clear terms of reference. I think we felt we really had to jot down actually what we wanted to achieve, and I think also what we want to make sure, we really wanted to do it across the globe. And it's just great to see that we got coverage from all the continents. Everybody really is engaged in this process. I mean, and it really has enabled the strategic discussion. Actually, we want to really bring it up to the level of the seniors at the Statistics Office to make sure that data science can actually not just replace but enhance and help the production of statistics. So we really could see now, and Osama already highlighted quite a few things about how we can speed up the research and actually can enable things. But the example that Ron just brought around COVID, I mean, without data science, I think we would have struggled. We would have really struggled to get those indicators very fast to our politicians. It's also very important that we could agree on an overall vision, and guidance till we get actually start producing those data science and use it for statistics. I think it gives us really that opportunity around looking at how we had partnerships, how we need to work more with the private sector. So those terms of reference, I think we created those around March last year, and that really also led us into the first sprint. So if you could move to the next slide, Ronald. So in that first sprint, actually, it really showed on the amount of interest we created there. I mean, we had how many? I wrote it down. We had 93 participants online to take part in that from 37 different institutes, and those 37 institutes was from 22 different countries and 15 different agencies. It really shows like the broad reach of and the importance that people saw in actually start using data science. And these are the topics we looked at. We looked at addressing the role of data science of statistics, but also beyond that. How do we actually discuss the role of data science within your statistical community? Were we also able to talk about culture? I mean, there was a culture change. That means we, working myself for Office of National Statistics, would really change that we had to bring people on the journey. Actually to show that data science was not a threat, but actually could work hand in hand. And so we had to do this at a slow pace, but really start showing that through research, we can start to enable and make changes. And also very much on giving a guidance, how to strengthen that international collaboration with data science is really key for this, because what we often say in this community is that we're not in competition with each other. We are here to learn and to share from each other. And I just took two quotes from the report that we wrote after the event. And the first one I wrote down here is like embrace the transformation of statistical production methods by incorporating data science techniques to enhance insights and improve efficiency. I think that's a really key one in that one. And the second one is very much around culture. Promote cultural change and adaptation to ensure successful integration of data science methods in traditional statistical productions. So it's that enhancing and not to replace, actually to improve things and actually to help it often to speed, to quality, whatever, to accessibility. It could be multiple facets. So that first sprint, that really gave us like that opportunity to move to, okay, how do we take this forward now? So actually over the summer last year, we really started to talk about what do we need to do? What is the need to go forward? So if Ron would mind to go to the next slide. And we felt we had this opportunity to get together. But when you get together and you organize quite a large seminar, we felt we had to do that also by leading up and actually agree a concept, what we wanted out of this. And that comes was the Data Science Playbook. So what we did to prepare for that, we organized 2 webinars. They were run in, I think it was October and December last year. And the first was around how to implement a data science transformation in statistical offices. So how do you start with that? And that was a real key part of that. And the second one, there's always long titles. How to build data science capability in NSOs. Like it was very much a brainstorming session. And that really paved for us the way how we were actually getting together. And so from that, we organized the face-to-face sprint, which happened in Dubai only a few weeks ago. And we had like 2 very intense days with, I think, around 40 people in person, just talking, discussing, brainstorming, case studies. I mean, case studies is actually to show that it's not just a proof of concept, actually see how you make a difference and actually take that forward. And I think that really spoke to and created a lot of healthy discussions actually. Oh, how have you done that? And then of course in the breakout sessions, we were really able to delve into the detail and actually start seeing how we actually can write onto that. So with that, I would like to hand back to Ronald, who's going to talk more about the playbook. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah. And also just want to mention, so Eric used to work for the Data Science Campus. Then he worked for the UN Statistics Division as a consultant when we did the 10-year review. and has been involved in this work on the Data Science Leaders Network, and he's currently working on a big data project at the ESCAP in Bangkok. So Eric has a good view how things are working across the globe. Yes, what we have set out to do with the Data Science Leaders Network is this what we call playbook, where we will give guidance to the statistical community on how to integrate data science in the work of a statistical office. What we want to do is develop this document, and we've put this into 4 sections. And within each of those sections, we have a number of chapters. We're still at the beginning of the process. So whatever I present here today on the current status of this playbook is still up for discussion and will be up for many changes, I'm sure, along the way. What we have done in Dubai is try to get as much input to each of the sections and to each of the individual chapters as we could do. But from here on, it will be the really tough process of really putting text into each of those chapters and be more specific on what we want to do. So the first section, we labeled that as leveraging basic tools of data science for immediate efficiency gains in the operations of a statistical office. It would have, in our current version, it would have 4 chapters: an introduction, then automation and process optimization, adopting new tools and technologies, and this cultural change already in this first part of the book. A little bit more about each chapter. Won't go into too much detail because, as I said, we're still at the beginning of the process, but this is just to give you an idea where we are going. By the way, it is also for those in the audience here an open invitation that if you want to be involved in this, please contact us. We're still also looking for people willing to draft parts of that playbook. So the introductory chapter, we want to see why guidance on data science for official statistics is needed. So it's the motivation also of this playbook. But we also wanted to have more of a definition of data science. So this came out of the discussions in Dubai, is that it would be very helpful to have an understanding, at least a kind of way of describing for this playbook what we understand with data science. So, and what's the scope of that? In the automation and process optimization, we want, 2 aspects that we would be looking at, but it could be more in there. But one is what's the value of automation? Osama indicated the automatic classification of products, for instance. So the coding which has been done manually within the statistical offices over many years. If we can automate that, that would be a huge efficiency gain. Probably also a quality gain, right? And that's the other aspect of it, is like we need to maintain trust in the outputs of processes. So it should not be a complete black box for us. And when we automate, we also need to have that transparency and we have confidence in how these processes are set up. We will have new tools and technologies, and then the other part, the cultural change that we're alluded to, that's a topic that comes back time and again when we discuss this data science and introduction of change into an office. A lot of the work done in statistical office is done in a very strict way because we want to have it control. We want to have that quality control. But if we introduce this with new processes, if we introduce data science in the business processes, there is a disruption of what we've done, and there is, of course, then a process needs to be going that there is buy-in from everyone in the office to go that way. Section 2, generating additional insights, especially in response to emerging issues, emerging needs. So we identify 5 chapters: rapid response and data integration, skill development, which is needed, the partnerships and collaboration. I think that is, in my view, one of the very important aspects of the new way of working, is that it's not that we can do everything by ourselves in the statistical office. We need to partner with academia, research institutes, and private sector. We need to adapt our quality frameworks, and we have to have some resource mobilization to be able to do this, as well as support from the leaders in the office to move forward on that. One thing I just pick out from this further details on these 5 chapters is that within the rapid response, we might also have to develop the agile infrastructure, or agile way of operating. On skills, I think prioritizing investment in people, I think, is something really needed. I mean, we see it in my team. I'm leading a data innovation team at the UN Statistics Division. We really have to develop new skills to be able to handle all of the new demands that we are facing. Section 3, this is this full transformation of official statistics. That is like a little bit the dot on the horizon, is like how can over time we transform some of our current business processes in which we then fully introduce the data science capability, making the work that we do more timely, while keeping the quality as needed. Here we need strategic leadership and support. We need advanced data science tools, technology integration into the processes, and then data quality management. We indicated here on the leadership side that that might be a multi-layered leadership using the RASI framework about who is responsible for what part of that process. So we're really thinking this section 3 is something that is a thorough review of business processes going on in the office. The final section of the playbook, as we see it, would really focus on the cross-sectional themes. Cultural change at all levels of the organization is one, and then institutional arrangement is another one. There could be more parts in this section 4, but so far we identified these 2 chapters. So the necessity of cultural change, I mean, I've mentioned now a number of times for the playbook. Creating a community of practice and addressing the tension between trying to comply with what your office has as its mandate and the willingness to innovate. And on the institutional arrangements, establishing institutional frameworks with these partnerships with other organizations, I think is very important. And the governance around that. So that is what I wanted to show on the playbook. So I hope that you have some questions on this and that you keep them for the Q&A, because at this point I wanted to invite a few of those who have been involved with the work of the Data Science Leaders Network and to indicate how they are in their institutes, how they are working with data science and what their current status is, and also how they see how this playbook could help in what they set up. And I first want to turn to Frankie Kay from the CSO of Ireland. She is the Deputy Director General. Frankie, if I can invite you to say a little bit about what is happening in Ireland and how you see that this playbook could actually help. Thanks.
Yeah, Yes, just to, I suppose, explain a little bit of background about data science in the Central Stats Office. We're, I'd say, more at the beginning of that journey at the CSO. We definitely can see a need for data science, and we are using it in pockets. And for very similar reasons to those that Osama touched on earlier, we're using more administrative data, we're using more big data, and like everybody else, other users of our data, our policymakers and so forth, are looking for more agility, they're looking for more timeliness, they're looking for more flexibility. And clearly COVID is an example of that, but also more recently Ukraine, which certainly led to the need for much more data science. For example, we were using data science to try to track patterns of arrivals from people from Ukraine into Ireland, and you could see a very strong correlation between prices of flights. They would dip and then more people would come into Ireland. So that's another example, a recent example of data science. The Central Stats Office in Ireland are viewed very much as data leaders, and I would say at the moment we probably don't have sufficient expertise to really take on that leadership role right across the system. And as we all know, there's an increasing growth around AI and machine learning. The ChatGPT explosion, I think genuinely is a real game changer. I mean, you can see cycles of technology. I've been working in this area in stats and technology for, gosh, too many years. But this one feels like there's a real potential step change. So we feel that it's very important that we're on the front foot in all of those aspects. So in terms of where we are at the moment as an organisation, I'd say our use of data science has been ad hoc. It's been driven by individuals mainly. So there's up to very, very recently, there hasn't been a central data science team or any specific structures. It's very much been driven by a community of practice in data science, and we also have an R user group. And that has definitely really helped build up interest and capacity and capability, not just within the CSO, but more widely across the statistical system. We do have some uses within the office. We do some web scraping. We're using AIS data. We're beginning to use generative AI. For example, we're using that we're moving away from SAS to R, and we're using generative AI to help do that code conversion. And I'd say, but at the moment, we only have a very small support team in technology, less in terms of using it in terms of production statistics. So limited expertise, limited capacity. However, in terms of, I guess, where we are at the moment, we are just about to set up a new data science team. So we're going to have a small hub. I describe it as a hub and spoke meal. So a small team that will start to develop effectively a playbook for the CSO, for the use of the data science in the CSO and in the statistical system of Ireland, which is why this work is so utterly relevant and timely for us. So we've appointed a new head of data science, and the team should be in place in the next four to 6 weeks. So in terms of the playbook, and the reason why it is of such interest to us is because of that. We're right at sort of that beginning of that formalization. We want to make sure that we make the best use of what are quite limited resources. We definitely don't want to reinvent any wheels. We're really keen to learn from others, both those that perhaps have more resources, but really interested in other countries who are like ourselves, who perhaps have much smaller teams. We want to develop things, lots of the things that are in that playbook, so frameworks, best practice, use cases that we can then take and apply within the organisation. So I think this is absolutely perfect. If you kind of look at the 4 sections it's very similar to us, using the basics. How can we improve automation, basic tools of data science, and then building those expertise so that it's used more comprehensively across the office, and is used much more in the production of official statistics. So we're very keen to learn from others in the playbook around potential quick wins. And I definitely see one of the other challenges is that cultural change that Eric mentioned quite a bit. How do we really embed data science? And that's the reason we've gone for a more, I guess, distributed model of only having a small team, and we're looking to put together a program of data science projects, but every one of those will be in partnership with the business areas. So they're not going to be just projects that are done within our small central team. So for us, the playbook couldn't be better timing, because we really hope that we can reuse a lot of the work that's in that playbook and apply it within Ireland, and create a more specific one for our particular circumstances. So that was it from me, just a brief overview, and obviously very happy to take any questions.
Excellent, Frank. I think you very well described what I think happens in quite a few offices, is that there are some bits and pieces of data science that are happening, and then you want to sort of integrate it more structurally. And so where do you start? Where do you begin? What are all these things that you have to think about to do this in the best way possible? And I think that's where we can have a playbook, and that's where we should start working together on to give that guidance and advice, what best practices are. And some of us have already had some practice, like Data Science Campus, for a number of years, and they can help us give their lessons learned. We also have Therese here. Can we put you on the spot, Therese? So we initially discussed with Ivan Morenzi from the Statistical Office of Rwanda to say a few words, but I see that Ivan is not here. Ivan. But Therese, you're here. Can we ask you for maybe a few words about what's happening in Rwanda? You have a data science campus since about 5 or 6 years or so. And what is the journey that you are on? How is it gradually developing? Therese, can we ask you to say a few words? You're muted.
Thank you, Ronald. Thank you for putting me on spot. My voice is not very good, but I hope you understand me.
Yes, please go ahead.
Actually, by the way, my name is Therese, and I work for the National Institute of Statistics here in Rwanda, and I head the Department of Data Science, but it's not that old. We are only 2.5 years old. So the journey has been quite somehow similar to what Francesca just shared. What I can add on is the partnering with people who have started the journey before has really been key and instrumental during our journey, because we had a partnership with ONS. We started thinking through the rigor instruments, and we were lucky the statistical role provides to access of data. So after putting in place some rigor instruments, we conducted some recruitments to clarify that even the recruitment that took place, we didn't have enough capacity in the locally. So we were recruited, but not necessarily meaning that we were experts, but at least we had ideas, but we were not experts. So it's still a journey. We are building capacities, and with the goodwill from the national level to try and see what technology can help and how we can benefit from emerging tools and data sources. We tried to explore different opportunities. To mention some of the automation, the first project we had in production was back in 2022, when we had to work on the post-animation survey, which is a survey that assesses the coverage of a census in terms of quality and coverage. So we were lucky with the partnership of ONS. We undertaken that project, and it was really successful and helped advocating for the use of data science. So that has been really a good project to advocate for what is possible, when in terms of automation and optimization of processes, because we were able to achieve it in less than 3 weeks, which was to be undertaken, if not data science, it had to take around 6 months. But that was thanks to the data collection, which was also digitalized. So data was there was no data entry requirement at that period. Apart from that, we are always trying different projects that are adding value to the office. To mention some work around Earth observation, to improve our agriculture statistics. We are now exploring partnering with the task team on mobile phone data to see how we can make use of mobile phone data for some potential use cases. So maybe without sharing much, the journey continues. We are learning. Even in the region, we are mobilizing the region. Some countries are have started exploring different use cases, be it in the data science, like using RAP. But I want to emphasize on the partnership. We think the partnerships that are happening around the globe, so that we share experiences and lessons, so that we don't fear to start. Back to you, Ronald.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Therese. Thanks also for your willingness to fill in for Ivan without any warning. So thank you for giving that insights. Yeah, I think a very important point is that if you have a successful use case in your office, that helps to then continue that journey to introduce data science. I think also to convince leadership that this actually can work. I think the example of putting in automated data pipelines, as I understand that in the post-enumeration survey, that helps you gain a lot of time and efficiencies in doing that. Thank you for that. We also, so this is from National Statistical Offices, from the perspectives of Frankie and Therese. We also have international statistical offices going into the data science domain, the data science field, and Marco Marini from IMF is leading a data science team at IMF. And Marco, we'd like to hear from you what the experience has been so far.
Thank you, Ronald, and thanks all of you joining us today. My name is Marco Marini. I'm chief of the data governance division in the IMF statistics department, and I'm lucky to have a small team of data scientists in my division that are working on innovative ways of using non-traditional sources and data science techniques for the organization. And so I'm very pleased also to be here as member of the Data Science Leaders Network and share our views, the IMF views on the playbook, and how it can be useful for our work. And to put this in our context, I'm also excited to announce that the IMF Statistics Department is in the process of creating a big data center of excellence, which is essentially a little bit more structure to our work, as Frankie mentioned. So we will essentially transform this team of data scientists in my division into like something that is we're going to call big data center of excellence for using big data for macroeconomic and financial analysis, which is one of the key tasks for the IMF to promote financial stability and sustainable development. So the center will be tasked to support, of course, internal needs of our economists in using and leveraging big data and data science. Some examples are, nowcasting economic variables like GDP, trade, using non-traditional sources like AIS data, satellite images, night lights, producing scientific indicators using NLP, from news articles. We are starting to use also Earth observation data to assess climate risk as part of the G20 Data Gaps Initiative. But the center will not also only support the internal needs. We also want to support our membership, and in particular statistics agencies, through external training and technical assistance program on the use of big data and data science. So in that respect, the playbook will be an invaluable resource for our big data center to support this work in statistics agencies, with particular attention to, of course, macroeconomic, financial, and environmental statistics, where we focus our capacity building program. And so from the discussion in Dubai, I see definitely three areas where we can play a role in developing. The big data center can play a role in developing and contributing to the playbook. First is, we all highlight here in also this discussion the role of international collaboration, right? So it's important to learn from each other, and so there are like cases where some statistics office already are in the lead, and then others that want to learn, and so perhaps the center can work together with other labs like the ONS Data Campus and other data labs to facilitate this transfer of knowledge, sort of kind of peer learning opportunities, put together like best practices and see what perhaps this exchange can create opportunities, right, for international collaboration. So the second area, I think, is the area of accessing non-traditional sources from private sector and administrative agencies. So I think that at the IMF, we developed a little bit of experience now, through our direct experience with private companies, from the development and the partnership with other international organizations, but we're also leading an initiative on accessing private and administrative data in the Data Gaps Initiative. So that's also something where we can contribute and help. And finally, I like that sort of, I think Osama came up with this idea of sort of that we need to help a statistics agency to integrate high frequency inputs into their traditionally low frequency outputs. I think that's something that I think we could also contribute. We have developed expertise now in a few products, and one that I want to highlight is PortWatch, and it's an innovative platform. It takes AIS data and put them and transform them into sort of indicators for assessing risk for trade due to climate, sort of natural disaster and other types of disruptions. So we are using also data that are available from the UN Global Platform. So that type of experience, again, developing that data pipeline to get the data, high frequency data, and produce insights quickly can be replicated across various domains. And perhaps we could, share that experience and see how this can be used and leveraged by statistics agencies, particularly in response to sort of emerging data needs. So I think looking ahead, again, from the IMF, we are committed to sort of develop the playbook, but also to use it and sort of so that we can actually use it when we go to countries and help them set up perhaps the data center or set up specific products they can use for their own needs. And so I think that the playbook will be definitely something that can highlight best practices and recommendations for data producing agencies, not only statistics, but I think also other data producing agencies like central banks, and eventually, help these agencies enhance the quality of their statistics for, better decision making in their, constituencies. So thanks. Ronald.
Thanks, Marco. Thank you for the insight and all of the work that is already happening at IMF. And I think what we can hear from all the speakers today is that we're all on that journey together, right? We're in all of our organizations. We have taken up the challenge to work with new data sources, to use new tools, to use data science to improve that work. One point I also wanted to make is that use cases are very important, and it has been mentioned by various of you. We also, I think, wanted for the playbook, and that's something that we want to bring back here, that came also from the second sprint, where we used where we started out with explanation of use cases for each part, in each section of the playbook. And I think we might want to bring that back also in that development of that playbook, that we that we describe a number of those use cases in detail when we, which makes it more tangible for people to know what we're actually discussing. So I think that as a side note, in our development, we're still at the early journey of developing that playbook. And at this point, before I'm going to give back to Osama for some concluding remarks of this session, I would like to see in the audience if you have a question or comment that you would like to make. I see from the chat there is Yves Jacques from UNICEF. I don't know if you wanted to come in, Yves. I also have a hand up from Farial, I think it is. So maybe I go to Farial first, and Yves, if you wanted to come in, that would then be second. If somebody can open the mic for Farial, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, thank you so much. All that you've shared is very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to the development of this playbook. I just wanted to share, we were talking about use case a lot, Ronald, and I just want to chip in a little bit from the Data for Now initiative. For those who are not familiar with the initiative, we work with countries to help them implement innovative approaches to fill priority policy data gaps. And we do that through strengthening their capacity to use those innovative approaches. So I'm just going to put the principle in because I don't want to take too much time here. But one of the things that we found really useful in this process is working with partners from the beginning to understand what the priority gaps are, and then we help use innovative approaches to fill those data gaps. So that we've experienced that to be a very useful process because we have the partners on board from the beginning, both the data producers and the users, which in our process takes the most amount of time because we have to get the ownership and the kind of the change management bit that we were talking about. And we've had these experiences, and I'll just give you two examples that we're working in Jordan to use geospatial and statistical information. So that requires partnerships with the Ministry of Local Administration, the municipality administration, and the Royal Jordanian Geographic Center. So bringing them from the beginning really helped us, kind of ensure that partnership. And now we're having a workshop with the international experts from UN Habitat to help them develop the capacity to use open sources to fill data gaps for measuring open public space and land consumption rates. The same is for web scraping in Tunisia, where we've partnered with Statistics Norway, who have already implemented such approaches, and bringing in partners to help them develop the capacity in this area. One thing I do want to mention from my side is that the playbook elements that you have mentioned, I did not see the mention of, let's say, an enabling environment or having the right statistical law or modernized legal structure to enable, because that has been a recurrent issue as well. Because when we work with the NSO or the NSS, they said our NSDS does not enable us, or our statistical law does not allow us to work with mobile positioning data. So that is something that I'd like to see, unless it's already in the thinking in one of the bullet points that you've shared. So I'll stop here and back to you, Ronald. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fayal. So Fayal also works with us at the UN Statistics Division, just for your understanding. Osama, did you want to come in now, or do I give it?
Can I just answer Farial's question about legal framework? So there is work going on, collaborative international work going on elsewhere on that, although it's not explicitly part of the playbook. But there is, and there's a work. There are discussions around sort of, the future of NSOs, given actually you have all this new data, and actually what does that mean for legal frameworks that need to operate in, etc. That is going on elsewhere, within, the international ecosystem, but isn't specifically yet part of the playbook. We will take them. One thing, I am going to have to leave bang on at 3 because I do have another meeting to get to, just to be sure.
Yeah.
Right, Yves.
We'll come back to you for the last minute, Osama. But first, Yves from UNICEF for maybe comment or question. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Ronald. And it's nice to see a number of familiar faces, since many of us were just in Dubai, and where I had the opportunity to present on culture change. And I put a link in the chat there for the Frontier Data Network that we're building out at UNICEF, and just a few reflections on what our experience has been over the last few years, and why we think some of our approaches are useful, or maybe useful to other agencies. We chose expressly a very bottom-up approach because we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't actually have a lot of institutional buy-in. Data science was still viewed as something kind of strange and innovative for some reason. So we chose a very bottom-up approach, just work with people within the agency that are already interested and build a community around that. Secondly, to choose a very network approach, not try and do it in just one place. We felt like it would be easier to kill it if it was in one place. So we deliberately took a kind of network approach by building up several nodes across UNICEF to have this more kind of guilds and tribes approach, if you've ever looked at that agile model, and then very partnership driven. Since we don't have enough resources, we have to, look around to see who we can partner with. So we've looked at the challenges being, partly data, partly talent, partly technology, and how do we leverage partners on all those streams? And so around that, we've done things like work with private sector partners to get data sets in, work with academia and research to bring in talent so we can shore up our talent gap that we have, and then to work with private sector technology partners as well to leverage technology in the most efficient way that we can to get the work done, and then to be very iterative to just look for the quick wins. I really appreciate the playbook as an idea and look forward to contributing to it. I think that the focus on low-hanging fruit and iterative approaches to bring data science into organizations seems to me like the best possible approach. Thank you.
Thanks, Yves, for those comments. Not much time for discussion and going back to our presenters and speakers because I want to give the last word to Osama. At this point, I really also want to thank Eric. I want to thank Frankie, Therese, and Marco for being here and presenting your work. And I'll give the word to Osama. I know you have to leave soon. Osama, to you for some last remarks.
Yeah. So I've been a member of the international NSO community for only 16 months now. I have to say it is an incredibly friendly and collaborative community. And it's because of that collaborative nature that we've been successful in coming together as a data science leaders network, and that we've been making progress on what we need to do, and in fact in developing a playbook. But as Ronald said, there's still quite a lot of work to do. So if you'd like to be part of developing the playbook, please let Ronald, Luis, and Maria know. Ronald's already thanked Marco, Eric, Frankie, and Therese. So I am also going to thank Eric and Ronald for sort of setting out the history and some of the aims of the playbook. To everyone for attending and asking questions. Sorry we didn't have time for more. And then finally, to Luis, Maria, Alison, and Ronald for organising today. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. I got to run. Bye.
Thank you, Osama. Thank you, everyone. I mean, this is a continuing discussion and looking forward to the next steps at the Commission and thereafter. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.